Welcome back, everybody. Thank you to Joffrey for letting me do the intro this week. It's a rare pleasure. I'm JD Kameen, and I'm here with my co-host, Joffrey Whiteside, and we have the rare pleasure to interview one of my favorite humans, one of the rare people to actually see me in the field in the Marine Corps. There's only a few people that's ever seen me curled up in the fetal position. Captain Jackie Barnum, class of 2014 from the Naval Academy, logistics officer, and just a tremendous role model. She has now dedicated her social media platform to building a community around mentorship, linking mentees and mentors in an industry and a profession that needs it badly. And we're super grateful for her time on this first Blue and Gold nighttime special, as Joffrey and I are here on the East Coast, 7 p.m. Jackie, thank you so much for joining us. Joffrey, I'll turn it over to you guys.
Yeah, definitely. I appreciate you coming on, Jackie. So tell the goats a little bit about yourself.
So first, thank you so much. Joffrey was telling me earlier the guests that you're planning on getting, and I literally do not compare at all. So I'm honored to even be part of this conversation. So super, I'm very humbled already.
At least somebody knows the guest coming.
So yeah, I graduated in 2014, originally from Northern California. I spent my first 2 years in the Marine Corps in Okinawa, and then I was in San Diego over to the Naval Academy Prep School back in San Diego now. When I was at the Naval Academy Prep School, I was a company officer, and during COVID also, which was very interesting. And that's really where my social media started to grow initially. And then I just was like, okay, how do we put this to good use? Like what purpose can I find? And, because this is like an honor and a privilege that I have this following all of a sudden. So what good can I make of it? And so that's how my mentorship program started. And I can explain more about that later. And yeah, now it was my New Year's resolution last year to start a nonprofit, to turn that into a nonprofit. And on December 11th, my nonprofit was formed, and now I'm still building the foundation and, doing all the tax exemption forms and all the really boring stuff, learning a lot. Every single phone call, I start with the bank or the payment solutions people or the payroll people. I just say, I don't know what I'm doing. And fortunately, I've gotten a ton of help, ton of great advice, and so that's what I'm working towards.
You are a beast. Let's just start there. That is awesome. I don't know how you balance all this, but for people that don't know, I feel like either right before COVID or at the beginning of COVID, Jackie and I were Instagram friends. I look away for 2 weeks, and then all of a sudden, it's like Jackie and Michelle Obama have like the same amount of followers. I was like, what is going on? This is crazy. But let's back up, Jackie, because you have a really interesting kind of career path. And the weird part is if you go to the Naval Academy, your career path starts in high school, which is kind of strange. How did you first hear about the Naval Academy? Aren't you from the West Coast? Like, how did that even happen?
Yeah, so my Naval Academy story is very specific in that, so backing up even further to 9/11, my uncle was in the North Tower of the World Trade Center. Yeah, so, and we were, how old we were, fourth grade. No. 10, 11 years old. And that's like a super impressionable age. And so my uncle was my godfather, like super close to my family. My dad's originally from New York. So he passed away in that. And
oh my God, I had no idea.
I never told you the story?
You must have, but oh my gosh, this is crazy.
Yeah, so, I mean, at that point, I knew I wanted to serve in some capacity. I didn't know what that looked like. I just knew, the Marine Corps is the most difficult branch, the most, highest standards, all that. And so then I don't remember how I learned about the Naval Academy. Who knows? It might have been an ad, but I have no military background in my family. So I was just like, my mom remembers me on the computer researching the Naval Academy. And I basically was like, this is an interesting school. Like, I can be in the military and go to college. That sounds cool. And they literally were like, hey, okay, let's go to DC. And we took a trip there, and I love the yard. Like, I just have always been drawn to structure and organization, and I just loved it from that moment. And then high school came around, and I kind of talked myself out of it because you hear the daunting stats of the whatever, like 1% get accepted and this and that. And I so quickly was like, I won't get in. I'm not good enough, this and that. And then a general, General Angela Salinas, who happened to graduate from my high school, came to speak to my high school class. I was a senior, and she came in her alphas, spoke to all of us, and I just was like, that's got to be me. So literally, I had missed every single deadline for the nominations except the congressman because I was so late because I had already just been like, I'm not going to pursue this. I actually was looking into art school. And so basically, I put my heart and soul into that application. As we all know, you literally have to like do all the tests and medical stuff. Got my congressman nomination, and I had two acceptance letters in my hand. I had my nomination to the Academy, and literally like ASU, I was looking at I got into their graphic design program, and I remember specifically hearing someone or something say, if you don't go to the Naval Academy, you are making the wrong decision.
Wow.
And so I just went with that and never looked back. At no point did I even think of like leaving. Like once I decided that like I'm going there, that was it. I never had really any moments of doubt. Of course, we all like have our bad days, but like at no point was I like, oh, I made the wrong decision. Like never regretted it. So yeah.
Isn't it wild to think? So you were sitting in the crowd, General Salinas comes and talks, and that impression was so striking. You probably didn't even get a chance to talk to her one-on-one. I don't know if you did. But
I have no memory. I don't remember what she said. I don't remember anything. I just remember like her presence and, you know, what she looked like. And that was just so impressive to me. And what's really cool is that she somehow found out that I was going to the Academy somehow, you know, whatever. And it's very interesting. Her email is like very nondescript. It's like, you wouldn't even know. And she signs her name like in a very weird, like in a weird, funny, just like secret way. But she still reaches out to me about like once a year.
That's awesome.
That's how you become a general. You care about people and you do stuff like that. Like that's the type of leadership stuff. And I don't want to steal all the questions, Joffrey, because I know you have some too. But I noticed a little bit of an emotion that I think a lot of people feel when they apply to a federal service academy, which was self-doubt. You mentioned it like you were not, you know, you were past the timelines or you were worried about your SAT score, stuff like that, which is what it's so common. How did you overcome that?
I mean, I think when we're 16-year-old, 17, we already like hate everything about ourselves. So just like literally just start just deciding to go for it. And once I had all those things on a piece of paper, fortunately for me, I'm the kind of person who I am like decently okay at like a lot of things. And I think that's why the Academy was such a good fit for me, because I wasn't a really, really good violinist, which is like what Stanford needs and those Ivy League schools. They want you to be exceptional at one thing. But for me, I was on the tennis. I was a captain of the tennis team, captain of the soccer team, class president, like all those wickets that most of us are. And I liked doing all those things. So that's why the Academy was a good fit. And they look for people like that, that have the leadership experience, the sports experience, the ECAs, the volunteering. So, I mean, my application kind of just spoke for itself because I actually was doing all those things all along. And that's the advice that I always give to young kids interested in the Academy is you like start now, have a high GPA, do the sports, do leadership positions, because all of those things add to a really strong application package.
If you were talking to one 17-year-old junior man or woman out in California right now, and they're trying to make a decision, do I want to sacrifice a normal college experience, being able to go to parties on weekdays, all of the stuff that comes along with your traditional, almost cliche view of college versus your experience? Now, in hindsight, you probably thought that at one point, or your parents were like, do you really want to sacrifice a normal college experience? I'm sure all of us heard that What do you think now? You can compare, like you have a pretty good opinion on it. What do you think?
I just never have seen it as a sacrifice. I just never, maybe it's just my personality. Like that was never something that felt like I was missing out on. I never was cared too much about parties and drinking and all that. Like I cared so much more about the relationships that you make with people and the experiences. Like there's no experience like the Naval Academy. You can go have the same kind of experience at every other college. That's
true.
Normal. But what we go through is so different and unique. And I mean, I just never saw it as a loss, and I never felt like I was missing out.
Man, that's well said. Joffrey, I'm going to turn over to you because I'm just going to run away with this. Because Jackie and I are really good friends, and she's really good friends with my wife, so it's like I'm biased here.
Yeah, for sure. What did you major in at the academy?
Information technology, which sounds so weird coming out of my mouth because I couldn't even get my camera to work as we were setting this up. I'm like,
I didn't know
embarrassed. I'm embarrassed to admit it. I know. I don't even want to like tell people that, honestly, because they have this expectation of me. Yeah. Because I was an idiot. Honestly, this was probably my one regret at the academy is I was like, just knowing what I know now, I would have done a few things different. One being I would have had a different major because I'm actually really good at English and would have been way better. I would have had a way better time. And knowing how much your GPA follows you in the future, like no one told us that. No one told us how often I'd had to submit my transcripts for jobs in the Marine Corps.
Insane.
I've had to be a company officer, I had to submit my transcripts. Anyway, so
really?
that would be... Yes, they're in my record. I just put them in my record so that they can be referenced.
Yeah. I feel like that's not a thing in the Navy. I've never had to do
yeah.
that.
Well, I feel like if you're a SWO, they know you're gonna be so tired that no academics applies.
Yeah,
Very
so
true.
I wish I was an English major, but I had this weird attitude about it where I was like, I'm not going there to be an English major. And I was like, so that's another piece of advice I give students. Like when I taught at NAPS, I said, do something that you enjoy, because I cried so many times every time my code didn't work and I got a D on an assignment. It was not worth it. But at least on a piece of paper it says information technology, and I don't know. That sounds cool, I guess.
That's a little like me. I majored in engineering and I haven't used it since. I'm a realtor. I invest in real estate. Haven't used my degree yet. So I was like, looking back, I could have probably majored in something that was a lot more simple.
Maybe we're secretly using our degree because we did so poorly that we had to become really good networkers. Maybe that was the skill. My cyber partner was Jordan Drake. Shout out, Jordan. We didn't do so hot together. But
the only tie-in with my major, the only time that I could see, because I also was like, I'm never going to use this. But actually now with my nonprofit and developing a platform, and basically I'm translating everything from social media onto an actual platform where it automates all the mentoring facilitating. So in that way, I'm trying, kind of having that background a little bit is helping me visualize that. But I have a web developer and everything helping me. I'm not doing it by myself.
Yeah, but you're a CEO, and that goes right into it. You described yourself as someone that's good at a lot of things. That's true. Typically makes a really good CEO. Okay, so you graduated from the Naval Academy in 2014. You become a Marine officer. You go through Quantico. We could talk for many hours about Quantico. I'll start there. When you were in Quantico going to the basic officer school, was there any type of myth about being a Marine officer that immediately you confronted as not true? Either the perception of what a Marine Corps officer was when you were graduating, the perception of what a woman as a Marine officer was when you were graduating, anything like that. This is your experience. What did you feel about that?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I felt like I had to be a certain way with my personality. I had to be very serious. I had to be very stern and miserable, basically. So, and maybe I just made this all, I don't know. Honestly, no one ever told me that. You know what I mean? But I don't know why I had that idea. I don't remember everyone sitting me down and being like, you have to be this certain way. But just maybe because that whole school is all the SPCs are the same way. So I just
it's like the air of it or something. Like
exactly. Yeah. So I just felt like I really had to be this other person, and I was so miserable because of it. And that's honestly why I spend so much time and energy on my social media platform showing people that you can be yourself and also be a leader and be a Marine. And there's different leadership styles, and that's okay. Like JD, like you have a completely different leadership style than anyone I've ever met. And you're fantastic, and you
lead from the back.
But like you're a great example of that too. So I'm just showing like, and there's no shortage of people that exist in the Marine Corps, like our, Billy G, our CEO, complete like goofball, but he was an amazing leader. And so there's so many people that exist, but people don't see that. So I just wanted to use my platform to show, hey, like I'm just one of many different kinds of leaders. So I quickly, yep, he's a chief officer now.
Absolutely.
Chief warrant officer. If you had to isolate, sorry, I'm cutting you off, Joffrey. My bad.
No. You would say, I feel like that applies to any leadership position, because if you're not authentic, if you're not who you are, the people you're leading will see right through that. They'll see, you're acting and being someone else.
Definitely.
And you can't lead effectively. So I'm glad you definitely realized that. I realized that kind of late in my career, but I have no regrets. Go ahead, JD.
Yeah, that's super well said, Joffrey. Jackie, have you been able to kind of isolate in your own personality or your own brain why being in an environment where you couldn't be yourself was so taxing? Like, was it just a total deficit of energy, or was it like my personality is not able to flourish? Have you been able to put words to it?
I think it definitely is the energy thing. Like when I'm trying so hard, it's already difficult being a Marine and trying to perform under pressure and leading and, trying to lead others. So why adding another layer of being like, oh, I got to filter everything I say. I need to change the tone at which I'm saying it. I need to dial down my, approachability and transparency, because that's going to be, so having to think so much is mentally exhausting. So once I just got rid of those filters and layers of having to change everything, I was like, okay, now I can communicate way more effectively. I can do my job way better. My Marines, I can, relate to them a lot better and be compassionate towards them. And and therefore they trust me a lot more. And then it just is that cycle where then they will go above and beyond for me if I go above and beyond for them. And things just were so much better when I stopped overthinking, I need to be this certain way.
So this may be a good chance for this question. Jackie, so after the basic school, where did you go next? So
I got punched in the stomach, and my SPC brought the 3 logistics officers into his office. And to this day, I don't know if this was just him or really how it was going to, if our monitors really already planned it this way, but he literally brought us in as we walked in, and he goes, California, North Carolina, Okinawa.
Oh.
And I was like, can we re-enter the room? This was my last choice. So
that's
to
how
this
they
day,
do it in the Marine Corps. Man, that's tough.
Yeah, last choice. I was totally devastated. But in retrospect, I recommend that new lieutenants, especially if you're single, go to Okinawa as your first duty station, because that's really where my whole real estate stuff started, because going to Okinawa enabled me to save so much money. And I say to all my students, that don't drink your money away, save it. There is no reason why when you're in Okinawa, you can't save at least $2,000 a month. So over 2 years, that's significant, and that could be a down payment. And that's exactly what I did. I took my student loan, career starter loan, and 2 years of saving. And at that time, this was in 2017, when I finally got to San Diego, no one was accepting the VA loan.
So I'm going to pause you right there. You didn't you didn't blow your student loan on.
That's a first for this podcast, Jackie.
That's another piece of advice.
You didn't have Navy Fed or USA calling you like, what is going on?
Yep. I only spent $5,000 of it and went to Italy with my mom.
Wow.
And the rest of it I invested.
I invested it too, just not in normal vehicles of investment. Jackie, was your first duty station a place where you experienced your happiest moments in the Marine Corps, or was that a follow-on duty station?
Happiest. I was definitely not happy in Okinawa. I think that's a prerequisite. You have to be miserable to be in Okinawa. First of all. I definitely learned the most in that 2 years about logistics, about the Marine Corps. I had some really cool billets where I went to the Philippines 12 times. I went to tons of exercises. Wow. So as a young second lieutenant, that's why I recommend that to new officers, is you're going to learn just so much because of the op tempo over there. But I wasn't super happy. And 2 years is a long time. So definitely when I went back to the motherland of San Diego, where everyone is in great shape and suntanned and food's amazing and everyone speaks English, that was definitely where I finally was happy, I think.
So this is where I really feel like we're going to get into the meat of our podcast and the questions. And the part that I've been most excited about is hearing about everything that you're building behind the scenes, but you're humble and you haven't told me anything about it. So I'll pull it out of you here. I reported to Camp Pendleton after I was medically dropped from advanced after jaw surgery. And I was a public affairs officer and I reported to 1 Marine Expeditionary Force. I hadn't been to MOS schools, so they grabbed me to be the executive officer of the headquarters company, which was pretty large, but it was about 500 yards from CSSC, which Jackie can talk about what that stands for. But immediately upon my taking of the position, everyone was talking about how much they loved Captain Barnum. And it wasn't a name that I had heard in a while. I remember Jackie from the academy, but I hadn't heard it used in the Marine Corps because I had been in flight school. I had been in PAO world. I hadn't heard Captain Barnum, but everybody from really people that were coming right out of boot camp all the way up to Colonel Gorsuch were just totally obsessed with your leadership, your personality, your energy levels. And it was super cool because I was just, pretty familiar with you, but all of a sudden I got to see you in this professional realm. And that sounds so different than the Jackie you were describing in Okinawa. Like, what changed?
I think confidence. And in Oki, I just didn't feel like I had any skills yet. So I just was such a sponge and just kind of went with the, wherever someone told me to go, I went. But finally, when I got to San Diego, I just felt way more confident in myself. And I finally came to terms with hey, I have been given this commission for a reason and I've earned it. And now I'm going to put my money where my mouth is. And it's time to I just had to get over myself basically and my own fears. And, we're always battling this self-doubt. So I think I finally just kind of got over that fear. And then I just poured my heart and soul into my people. Because I finally was a company commander too. So I had the opportunity to be in charge of 150 Marines. And I was like, okay, I'm going to show them the love and care that I would want for me. That I didn't really get so much that I can really remember before that.
Dude, it was wild. It was wild. I walked over to CSSC where Jackie was where her office was. And I was like, okay, I've been in the Marine Corps a couple minutes. I know what I'm doing. I walk in and there's crew serve weapons over here. Jackie was talking to a gunnery sergeant over here on top of a Humvee. There was multiple armored vehicles about to run me over. I was like, this is a real operation. She is actually commanding. This is nuts. I was like, I need to be more professional. This is crazy. This is a real Marine Corps gig here.
Yeah, it was super fun. So CSSC was Combat Service Support Company. And it was actually crazy because So that was when MHG, not to be too boring, but MHG became the MIG, so Marine Information Group. So that was a completely new, huge unit. And then our battalion under it was, so everything was new. So figuring out, I remember sitting at a table and then being like, okay, so what is our mission? I'm like, what do you mean, what is our mission of our entire battalion? Like, we don't have that figured out yet. We don't know what we do. So, of course, that trickles down. So when the Marines feel like they don't even know what their purpose is. So my job now is to give them purpose. So I had a motor transport platoon, engineer platoon, and a food service platoon. And how do I get them to feel purpose and do, like, progress in their MOSs and get to know each other and what's next for them, like what potential do they have? And so definitely NAPS was very rewarding in a different way, but that being that company commander for those Marines was definitely rewarding.
It was so cool to see you in that. It was awesome.
It sounds like you did an awesome job. What's, 2 pieces of advice you would give to, the future leaders on just leadership? It sounded like you crushed that tour.
Oh, 2 pieces of advice for someone, like, man, that's a hard question. I would say, like, every single person is important and there's value that they can add. But as a leader, it's your job to figure out what motivates them and to pull that out of them and to see, like, what's next for them. And that is what, like, will inspire them to work harder for you because, if you can let them go early, let them go early. But if if you treat them with respect and love and show that you care about them, on that one day that you say, hey guys, we need to stay late, there's no question about it. They won't, they will do that for you. So, that would be one. And then, the classic, like, leaning on other people. Like, when you're still a young officer, you really need to rely on your staff NCOs. But don't let the wool get pulled over your eyes either. So that's definitely a lesson that I learned kind of the hard way. I think I was a little too trusting, and people would be like, oh, it's good, ma'am. It's good. And I wouldn't question that or check it. And then I had to learn the hard way that things weren't always good. So definitely, like, ask for advice and ask for recommendations and take everything, and then, but be very clear and say, thank you for your recommendation. Like, I will let you know what my decision is. And be very confident and strong in that, because they will try to walk all over you and take advantage of the fact that you're younger and new.
Yeah, definitely. You mentioned NAPS and content creation. So how did you even get into content creation? How did that come about?
Honestly, organically and by accident. So however many years ago, right before I got to NAPS, my roommate from the academy, she started doing social media stuff, and she was like, make your account public, like, let's do it for fun, like, who knows what will happen. And so I was like, okay, public, like, I don't know what this means. And then I got to NAPS and I started posting things about leadership and like kind of like reflective things, and my students started to like follow me and see, and it kind of became a way for me to like communicate with them in a way. And then during COVID, it was so miserable. These students, bless their hearts, couldn't even leave base for an entire year. Couldn't leave their rooms during INDOC. Literally, like, could not leave their rooms hardly at all. The military staff, we were the only ones going into the office to check temperatures, deliver toilet paper, deliver their food. They had no sports, no in-person classes. So you could imagine morale. So the few times that
Rhode Island is like,
and in Rhode Island, on top of that.
That's a cold winter.
Us doing social media stuff and like the sort of like trendy TikTok things became like a morale boosting activity for us. Like they would get so excited. I remember one of my students was like, ma'am, you should post a reel. And I literally was like, what is that? I don't know what that even is. So they taught me, they're like, oh, this is, and they loved explaining to me, the old company officer, all these like young kids explaining to the old lady what social media is.
Right.
So it really became a fun thing for us. And a few of those videos went viral. And then that's how more and more people started to follow it. And that's when, now I'm like, okay, now I want to add like make it much more intentional and deliberate with what I'm posting. But for those 2 years, it just was like, what's a trending thing this week? Let's do it. And the energy, it literally, but like their energy was, they would have been just before just so sad and distraught. After 5 minutes of doing a whatever trendy thing TikTok video together, they were all laughing. They like loved it. I'm like, okay, this is worth it to me. Like
that's literally leadership.
This is how I can add value to their sad little lives right now. Finding
people where they are and anything to like get them rejuvenated, like that is like the crux of leadership. How cool is that? I don't think awesome. When you were at Navy, they were going to say you're going to use a tech platform to totally inspire your people, but you did it.
Yeah, that's awesome. How do you deal? Because this is something I dealt with as I get into content creation. Me and JD go back and forth. But so I posted a reel and only got probably like, I don't know, 1,000 views and like probably like 10 negative comments. And I look at your reels and they're like at 1.5 million. So I would imagine there's a lot of negative comments. So how do you deal with the negativity? Because I mean, just being transparent, that's something, you know, I'm very like hesitant about putting myself out there, because you got to deal. I mean, it's a lot of positive, but it's also, you know, a lot of negative that comes along with it.
Yeah, definitely. So the first thing is, if you literally go on YouTube and like type my name, there's literally a 10-minute video about me that someone made, and it's pretty mean, but it actually helped me so much because he was, you know, pulling out comments, and he goes, well, someone said blah, 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 blah. And he was reading comments, but it was someone said this, someone said that. And I'm like, that is exactly right. These someones have no face and no name. Like I put my face and my name next to on every single post, and I stand by those things that I say and do. And these people are nobodies and will have never made an impact or have done anything worthwhile in their lives. Yeah. So having that kind of like perspective really helps me when I do get these troll comments. I'm like, you know, if it's not me they're bashing, it's going to be someone else. It's not personal. They just are sad. And honestly, I wish I could recommend like Military One Source these people, because clearly they have like angry emotions that they need to process, and they're just taking it out on me or who they think I am. And so when I just think of it that way, that really, really helps. And the second thing, honestly, is I'm turning 32. I'm very desensitized at this point. Like, I really worry about our young kids who are joining the Navy, going to Naval Academy, that have social media followings and don't have that kind of like mental resilience yet. Yeah. Because if you asked me this question 2 years ago, it definitely would be a different answer. Yeah. So I think I'm just so used to it. And I see behind the scenes how much good it is doing. I mean, I got a message yesterday from some, like literally every day, someone, oh, my niece follows you and she's going to OCS now because of you.
That's awesome.
Things like that, awesome. Constant. Yeah. So those are things people will never see. When I went to Norse's ball last year, my boyfriend, a Marine at LAD came up to me and said, you gave me mentors to help me apply to commission, and I just submitted my package, and I just wanted to thank you. Dude, I would have never have known who that kid was, because how would I ever know? Yeah. So that's what that pulls me back to my purpose. And like, okay, it's worth these hate comments. Like, okay, oh well.
Okay, I need advice then. So there is no shortage of people that could take up time in your day. Literally, you could spend all day long responding to just messages. How do you structure your day? Because that's a big like undertaking. That's a time suck if you dive into that. How do you possibly maintain structure in your day?
Definitely. I've had to figure this out so I have my routine now. So on Mondays, I post all the requests and I leave it be. And I will let an entire week go by, and maybe sometimes even more, and I have my DM day. So last night I spent 3 hours just put like Parks and Rec on in the background and just was going through every single DM and responded to every single one, got every single mentor request, and that's boom. Like that is my DM time for the week, and that's it. I have no notifications turned on for anything except texts. And so that's how I've learned to not be just I don't feel the need, and I'm not obligated, and no one's obligated to respond right away to anybody. So I just leave things. I will read them sometimes and then put them back on unread, because I will truly respond to every single person. Wow. But it may be a week later, and that's okay. That's fine. Like, people have never been like, oh, why didn't you respond faster? Like, it's always, thank you so much for responding. So yeah, that's how I manage my time for the social media stuff.
The resiliency at 32 is, you hit it on the head. Because I wake up in the morning and I look in the mirror, I'm like, I look like an overweight peregrine falcon. Like, this is not good. So there's not much you could say to me to bring me down at this point. But I'd love to shift and really dive into what you're building, because I think that's the kind of the meat of this whole thing. And Jackie, please just cut me off or stop me if I'm butchering this. But Jackie's social media has really exploded, and I think it's attracted people that are looking for something, maybe looking for something more out of the military or out of service academies or something like that, which is resources, which is education, a link to somebody that's done it before them that can provide some sort of guidance. And it just doesn't exist. It literally does not exist.
That's true.
And there's very few people that have organized a group of really like a span of different age groups and education levels and ranks. And I think what you're launching is super, super cool, no matter the form it takes, even if it's just messaging people and linking them up with other people that have gone before them. Mm-hmm. Can you describe what you're working on, Jackie?
Well, you really nailed it with the someone that has done something before. I think that's what makes well, first of all, there is no mentor program that facilitates mentorship for currently serving service members and people that are interested in service. And my program, like, we have never said I say we now because I have a team of people, but like, I have never said no to a request. So I help dependents and spouses and high schoolers looking for, and people getting out. So there's tons of resources for people transitioning out, which are really great. But I realized, like, when I was so this happened organically when I started getting messages that were like, I'm interested in supply in the Navy. Like, what do you know about that? And I'm like, well, I don't know anything. So let me post this. And I'm sure someone that follows me knows. And truly, that's like how my program started, where I was like, I don't know these answers, but like, I can probably find someone that can help you. And so that's how it started. And I literally, the one that hit me the most, the message that I got, someone said, my OIC recommended that I reach out to you to find a mentor. So that just goes to show that the military this is a huge gap that exists. And I believe that even like down the road, this can really affect retention numbers, because sometimes, we just don't know what programs exist. Like, I don't know what congressional fellowship is like. I would love to talk to someone about that and see how things are like overwhelming, but my program just links people up with people who have done that. There's no special qualification needed. There's nothing. There's just, have you done that thing? Yes or no. When you want to help someone? Yes or no. Okay, great. Boom. You're a mentor. So that's what makes my program special. It's like, it's so easy. It just takes you send me a DM, and then in a week or two, you get an email from me saying, hey, here's who you can talk to.
I literally have never heard of it. That doesn't exist.
Yeah, that's awesome. You're literally changing lives. And the fact that you could have, used your influence for anything in the world, and you actually used it for, connecting people and helping people, just, speaks volume about your character and your leadership. So, I just want to say that I appreciate you at the end of the day, because that's amazing.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And that's why what's even cooler, I mean, it's all cool and I love all this. And I literally believe in this so much with my entire being, because I've just seen it work for 2 years. So it's cool, because it's not like I woke up one day and I was like, I want to start a nonprofit that has this mission and this purpose. Like, I've been doing this and it's been proven to be successful. But I am so underwater with requests. I counted last night. I have 128 unmet requests. So one day I went on my Instagram, I posted a story, and I was like, I need help. If anyone can help me with a website, please let me know. And that at that point, I just thought website. I wasn't even thinking making it a nonprofit at that point. I just was like, I need a website to help automate this stuff. And one of my students from NAPS, his father, messaged me and said, like, I'm willing to help. Like, we set up a meeting.
That's
I
awesome.
showed him it's the funniest, simplest diagram that I want to like frame one day because it's so funny, my vision. And now, like 4 months later, it is looking so awesome behind the scenes. Like, it hasn't launched yet, but that's just another example of like how people will help based off of how you treat people. Like, I even said, I was like, I will pay you. Like, I don't have a solution yet, but I will. And he said, nope. He's like, don't even worry about it. Like, the way that you treated Isaiah and all the NAPS kids, like, this is on us. And so I just am like completely thankful. And so that's when I'm like, okay, nonprofit, like I want to get the word out about this resource. So I have like I want a marketing team. I need someone to help me with grant writing. So I have Norse helping me with that. So all these people are helping. So the least that I can do is kind of send out the SOS of like, hey, any sort of donations to keep this going and make it even bigger. Like, I envision in the future doing events and networking things. And there's so much potential that it has. Right now I have a team of 4 people, but next year I'd love to have that doubled. And then, for the last 2 years, I've helped over 1,000 service members with me. So if I have 2 of me even, or 3, you know what I mean? Like, it's just so exponential, the potential that this has.
Where do people find you? Because let's get everybody. We have a small audience, but a very dedicated audience. Where can they find you?
Yes. So if you just go on Instagram, Jackie, JACKIE.Barnum is my Instagram. The nonprofit website is called mentorsformilitary.org. So if you want to email me, Jackie@mentorsformilitary.org. If you want to go get your name on the list to get updates about when we're launching, if you go on the website right now, it's just a landing page, and we'll soon be adding a donation button. Wink, wink.
Joffrey and I are already committed. We are clicking that button right after this.
Absolutely, 100%.
Dude, that is super cool. I don't understand. You're adding more to your plate. Most people at your rank start taking stuff off their plate.
I'm the kind of person where if I have 100 things to do in a day, I will do all 100 things. But if I have one thing to do, I will procrastinate that one thing for days and days.
So well said. So well said. It was just a good opportunity to ask you about my business idea. I feel like when you book a plane ticket, you should be able to schedule a masseuse to sit behind you. Like, potentially they're flying too, and they could sit behind you. Would that be a nonprofit, or is it a terrible idea?
I think that's a good idea. It's got some legs, maybe.
Jackie, you're awesome. And Joffrey likes to sign off with a few other questions. I'll turn it over to him. But you are a rock star, and we can't wait to send people your way. And you're just going to – I mean, I can't wait to, like, hopefully my kids join the military and I get to link them up with you when you're, like, 76. I don't know how old you'll be, but –
Likewise.
I can't wait.
So what's 3 pieces of advice that you like live by, or you would, tell either a young officer or just somebody that's, in the Navy or military, just in general?
Usually your gut is right about things. So when you get that feeling, listen to it, because it's usually right. Yeah. So definitely that is one thing. Okay. I would say, like, especially, this is maybe just for like women specifically, but people unfortunately kind of like lay in wait for you to mess up a lot of times. And so if you're a leader, like, don't give people a reason to doubt you. So of all the things you can control, just do your best at all those things. Like, there are going to be things that come out of nowhere and are unexpected that will throw you off. But if you are on top of it, physical fitness wise, like knowing your job, being organized, being on top of it, like, you take power away from people to be like, oh, got her. And so not stooping to people's levels, because people will try to poke the beast and try to get a reaction out of you. And so don't give people that satisfaction. And then also, I guess the last thing is just that I have learned just how small the Marine Corps is now after being in for 10 years. And the way you treat people and the conversations, not that you just have, but people even watching you interact with other people are so important, because people always come back around and they remember how you treated them. And they remember that stuff so much more than like a brief that you gave or something more like tangible in your actual job. Like, people really remember how you make them feel and how you treat them with dignity and respect. And yeah, I just think that's super important.
That's well said.
That is well said. What's 2 books you would highly recommend?
I recently read the book Like War, which is interesting. It's kind of outdated now, but it's about like social media, and my previous CEO recommended it to me. Very good. So that's a like military book.
Oh, like War.
Yeah.
Got it.
Like, yeah. Not On War.
Well, yeah. Like
Isn't
War.
that On War? Isn't that
On War.
Sun Tzu? That's Sun Tzu, right?
That sounds right.
Oh my gosh. Or Clausewitz. Oh my God. Anyway.
I don't know.
Anyway. Oh, Art of War.
Art
Okay,
of War.
Forget it. Oh my God. I took
Art of On War. No,
I
think
hope no one at Naval War College is listening, because I'm embarrassed.
I think all of those are books, though. That's the thing.
And the second one is kind of goes into it's 2 books, but the female brain and the male brain. I just think those are interesting books to read. They're written by like a really super smart woman, and I think it just is interesting to read when you're just in a professional environment and you have a kind of better understanding of how men and women just like operate, and it helps with like just communication and motivation, and especially with like, even if you're a parent, like how to it just helps. I just think that's a good book to read.
Absolutely. Well, Jackie, I appreciate you coming on the podcast. You're an absolute rock star. I think this might be the best episode yet, to be honest with you.
You're a freak, Jackie.
This was awesome.
Thank you, guys.
This was awesome. But we look forward to, donating to your cause, and, looking at you grow over, the years to come. So, yeah, this is Joffrey Whiteside and JD signing off.